You're tuning into Black and White Sports on YouTube. The no-holds-barred truth on sports. The main event starts now.
All right, Black and White Sports supporters. Well, we know the morning after the Super Bowl, I got on here, and full disclosure, I am a Niners fan. I got on here and I unloaded on the 49ers, but more specifically, I was like, hey, look, this Steve Wilks experiment is clearly not working out. Now, I was never a big fan prior to him coming to the Niners. When I heard they were hiring him, I cringed. I was like, oh no, this is not a fit. And what we're seeing, what we have saw in this playoff run, there's one massive and big difference between Steve Wilks and the DeMeco Ryans, Robert Saleh, and that is physicality. You could take it all the way back to Jim Harbaugh being there too if you want. But the Niners are lacking that, whatever that Seattle cover 3 scheme brings, that physicalness. I feel like this team on defense is, simply put, not as tough and not as scary. All right, nobody was saying this year they were scared to play the Niners defense, and that's been part of this team's makeup for quite some time. And I was worried when DeMeco Ryans, who I thought was a great hire, left. I was like, who are they going to hire? And then in steps Steve Wilks. Now, a lot of people forget earlier in the year, and I think Steve Wilks came dangerously close to getting fired after this Monday Night Football loss, where he had to come out and admit that he knows he messed up because he brought a jailbreak blitz, an all-out blitz, and he got burnt for a massive deep touchdown by Kirk Cousins. Because, well, that's what good quarterbacks do. They recognize those blitzes are coming, and they exploit them. And then this past week at the Super Bowl, we saw the Chiefs go 4 consecutive drives. 4 consecutive drives on this Steve Wilks defense. And I understand it's Patrick Mahomes, but there's obviously something wrong here. And at one point we talked about this, that picket fence, 5 guys lined up way off the receivers. And Patrick Mahomes immediately exploited that. And then this was in the fourth quarter. And then a few plays later, Steve Wilks lines up in the same position to call it again. And Tony Romo was screaming as a commentator, Steve Wilks is about to run this again, and the Chiefs are about to hit him again. I think they gave up like 9 or 10 yards on the previous one. And he was like, he's calling it again. And then next thing you know, boom, timeout. Kyle Shanahan called a timeout, and that play did not happen. And Tony Romo said on the broadcast right there, he wasn't going to let Steve Wilks run that defensive call again because they had just got burnt on it, and he was about to turn around and do it again. So, let's get to this. Kyle Shanahan is coming out, and he is saying that he expects is the key word here, Steve Wilks and most of the staff to return. No, but I'll get to a story that shines a different light on this. The 49ers had 4 defensive players selected to the Pro Bowl and 5 others were alternates, yet the 49ers didn't always play up to their all-star status. We've got a ton of players. But clearly something happened, particularly in the playoffs, but there was flashes during the regular season that this defense was not the same as those hardcore defenses we've had the last several years. They finished the regular season 8th in total defense, 3rd in points allowed. Now, points allowed is the statistic I like. All right? That's the one I really care about. Because Belichick, when he had those great defenses, look, they weren't always among the top total defenses, but their points allowed defenses were always very good, and he brought home rings because of that. But this Steve Wilks is not Bill Belichick. I can assure you of that. In fact, a lot of people are calling for Bill Belichick right now in San Francisco, in case you haven't noticed. Run a search for that on YouTube. The videos will pop up everywhere. The 49ers allowed 31 points to the Lions in the NFC Championship game, including 24 in the first half, allowed the Chiefs to score on their final 4 possessions. That has brought some heat on defensive coordinator Steve Wilks. It should. A lot of heat. Coach Kyle Shanahan, though, said Tuesday he expects Wilks to return along with most of the staff. We know Clint Kubiak, who I think is a good hire for the Saints, is gone. Quote, I haven't talked to anybody yet, so yeah, I expect all of our coaches to be back. Shanahan said specifically about Wilks' return via David Bonilla of 49erswebzone.com. Wilks, 54, God, I thought he was like 65, replaced DeMeco Ryans as defensive coordinator a year ago. The 49ers allowed 409 yards per game and 24.7 points per game in the team's postseason games under Wilks. That's a defensive meltdown. Shanahan, though, defended the job Wilks did. That doesn't surprise me. Quote, I thought they're one of the reasons that we got this far, he said of the defense. I thought they did a number of good things. They did a lot of good things in that game, too, just like our whole team. Our team did a bunch of good things this year, but came up short in the last game. Enter in Tim Kamakami. Everybody knows he has covered the Niners forever, but he's now working for The Athletic covering the Niners. And you see this headline. Defensive coordinator Steve Wilks probably isn't quite so locked in. And he's talking what's coming in the offseason. He does talk about Brock Purdy's status. He's locked in. We're not even going to go over that. But he does get to Steve Wilks. No sensible team wants to run through scapegoat roulette after this kind of bitter loss, and I don't think Shanahan and Lynch are scapegoaters. Once you start down that road, sometimes it's hard to stop, and the whole thing destabilizes. It's important to note that Wilks did a solid DC, who is a solid DC, who had to learn this defense and this personnel on the fly this season, and actually frustrated the Chiefs' offense through much of the Super Bowl, even after losing Dre Greenlaw in the first half. A lot of things went wrong for the 49ers in this game, just like a lot of things went right. Scapegoating is poor form and is not a sign of a consistent winner. Yeah, but what if you want a little throwback? What if you want to go back to the defense you're used to running? But there were clearly some shaky times and weird communications throughout this season. It's been an issue on and off all year, culminating in the last few Mahomes drives when the 49ers defense seemed more confused than it should have been. As Nick Bosa noted with some anguish later, wasn't all the way prepared for Mahomes keeping the ball on 2 critical plays. Not a good look. The key postseason stat, the 49ers gave up 130 rushing yards Sunday and an average of 149 in the 3 playoff games. That wouldn't have happened under the previous defenses the last several years. That's not the way Shanahan and Lynch want things to go in the biggest games. That's not how the 49ers are built to play. They're supposed to win games with physicality. This is not a physical defense. Not nearly like it was. It is not. Yet they got outrushed in all 3 of their playoff games. Right. Who outrushes the Niners? It should not happen. Everybody did in the playoffs. And no team should be running the ball down our throats. Not a chance. Is Wilks the guy to get this defense back to the prime level? ? Or is there another candidate closer to the Robert Saleh DeMeco Ryans mold who comes from the Seahawks cover 3 system and who might have more personal chemistry with a defense that's fueled by its linebackers and defensive front? Former Seattle and current Indianapolis DC and former Jacksonville coach Gus Bradley would seem like almost a perfect fit, but I don't know if he's available. Other than that, it's unclear. If Shanahan and Lynch don't have a surefire alternative option, they probably shouldn't make a move unless key defensive players really feel like a change would be best. I imagine the next few days will include some general in-house conversation about all of it. And maybe the smartest thing to do would be to presume that the chemistry between Wilks and players will evolve in year 2, possibly with a tweak or two to his staff. And then if it doesn't work out, maybe Saleh will be available after 2025. I said that the other day. If it doesn't work out with the Jets, Saleh will be back on this team. However, why blow another year? Why do it? All right, because the pressure on Shanahan to win the big game, that's all anybody has talked about. Basically, is that he can't get it done. We're turning into the Buffalo Bills. All these different things. Go hire Pete Carroll. I mean, go hire the undisputed originator, the guy that mentored the Robert Salehs and the Gus Bradleys, the main guy. Pete Carroll still wants to coach. Bring him in as a senior assistant head coach and defensive coordinator. Make a big swing. I said the other day, hire Bill Belichick as DC. I heard John Middlecoff say it on his podcast. Call up Belichick. Give him a fortune to be the defensive coordinator on this team. I wouldn't even do that. You don't even have to do that. Pete Carroll made it clear. He wanted to keep being around the guys, the players, and he wanted to keep coaching. And yeah, he's 72 as well, but we all see Pete is the youngest 72-looking-year-old guy anybody's ever seen. Hell, he looks younger than half the league right now, still. And he's full of energy, and he's full of passion. And, I'm just saying, if you want somebody to run the Saleh, D'Amico Ryans, Seattle cover 3, you go to the undisputed Super Bowl champion that created the Legion of Boom, and that's Pete Carroll. You go get Pete Carroll. Bring him back into the fold down in California with the 49ers and make him your defensive coordinator and senior assistant head coach. And maybe you can lean on him, too, in some of the biggest games since Pete has been there, both at the Super Bowl champion level and at the I won national championships at USC level. You got to make a move. Don't waste another season. It sounds like Steve Wilks isn't as safe as Kyle Shanahan kind of let on, but not really. And then you got the Athletic saying it right here. They're going to take a look at the defensive coordinator position. Pete Carroll still wants to coach. Word is he went back-channeled and tried to get the L.A. Chargers job, but it went to Harbaugh. I don't blame him. I'd have given it to Harbaugh over Pete, too. But if Pete still wants to coach, that's what you do, is you go get Pete Carroll to run that Seattle 3. You get the originator. Yeah. Tell me what you think. And obviously on a local level, they'll embrace Pete Carroll coming back in and around anywhere down there. And I know he was sort of the enemy with Seattle. The 49er fans will embrace Pete Carroll quick. Very quick. Tell me what you think. Peace. I'm out. Till next time.
Thanks for watching the show. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to tune in next time on Black and White Sports.